the top of the food chain at Rapid Building Inspections. So general manager, founder, knows the business back to front from that side. So what I might do just to start with is, as I said, just introduce myself and give you a little bit of background as to what I've been up to over the last 30 years. So my background is residential real estate. So real estate businesses down in Sydney. First National, it was a licensee of a business down in a little suburb called Kings Langley. Worked there for quite a few years, came up to Brisbane or in Queensland a few years back and transitioned across to corporate real estate. I was working at PRD and then across to Remax as the director and licensee of Remax Australia before they sold the master franchise. So I've been around real estate for a fair while. Did 4 years just before this with Mortgage Choice. So got a fairly good understanding across the lending space as well, and particular with mortgage brokers who at the moment are writing about or just under 70% of the loans you see out in the field. The banks have taken a bit of a step back since the Royal Commission and allowed the brokers to kind of take over and take the risk for the applications and submissions. So an understanding there. And then about 18 months ago, landed at Deep Blue Company. And just to explain, Deep Blue Company, I guess the best way to explain what we're about is our space is the sale to settlement space. So basically from exchanging contracts right through to settlement, that's the piece we look after, and in particular, the due diligence side of that. So predominantly conveyancing and building pest inspections. So, and as I said, I'll let Dan explain the other side of that coin from the building inspections point of view. But from conveyancing point of view, we've got, I guess the first thing, I might share screen so it makes sense what I'm talking about and gives you a bit of a visual reference. I'll just share screen with you. There we go. Everyone can see that. Give me some confidence. Someone answer. Everyone's got me. Thanks, guys.
We've got it.
Perfect. All right. Yeah. So I'll start from the beginning. As I said, Deep Blue Company, I'm head of property partnerships. So anything to do with real estate agents and mortgage brokers in particular, looking after that relationship and making sure everything runs smoothly. And in this instance, in relation to our, what we call our direct referral program. So in essence, taking referrals from customers that you guys and girls out in the field have that need conveyancing or need conveyancers and solicitors, and need guys like the crew out of Dan's team, Pest and Building Inspections. I guess a bit of confidence to start with that we're not a small company, and you've probably gathered that we've entered into an agreement with Oxbridge. So as you can understand, we're not cottage industry kind of conveyancers or pest or building, we're national. We had a recent survey done, an independent survey done, which kind of pegged us at about 8% or having an 8% stake in the sale to settlement journey nationally. So that's quite large, and the nearest competitors are a long way behind that. So quite a big company, a lot of employees. There's 400 or roughly about 400 employees across the group. And for the Queenslanders that get to see this presentation, we're sitting around or just under 15% at 13% of the market of that sale to settlement piece or that space there. So quite a lot of experience, quite a lot of people, high volume kind of turnover. And most importantly, as I said, with that scale, the ability to look after people and make sure everything's covered. The journey, I guess, or the dream for us is to make that sale to settlement journey as streamlined as we possibly can for the customer. So again, taking back to my initial days in real estate, you know, the contract was exchanged. We were doing the exchanging in the office at that stage. We sent them off to the conveyancers and solicitors, and then basically not washed our hands of the customer, but handed over to the solicitors and conveyancers, and really didn't get involved in that side of things, other than to jump on the phones and kind of chase up exactly where the deal was at, to make sure at the end of the day that we're going to get paid and receive our commission check. So again, this slide here demonstrates size of the company, massive, 70,000 loyal customers, 400 employees worldwide, and involved in 9 billion in property transactions over the last 12 months. So quite, as I said, giving you the confidence that you're not working with a small-time operator, you're dealing with someone that knows the process back to front. High level of reviews as well. So I'll speak to down the track as we talk through this, any referrals that come through. As I said, we've arranged an agreement with Oxbridge, where we do forward through a loyalty payment or a referral fee, for want of a better term, through to you guys and girls as a thank you for sending us the business. So any lead that we do convert, and it becomes business, it becomes a pest or building inspection that's booked and paid for, and a conveyancing matter that's also booked or paid for. Every month we will be reporting back to Oxbridge with a report that basically shows them the address of the property, which ties back, and they'll be able to count down, filter down through to you guys and girls, and make sure you get that fee. As I said, this is what we do: $62.50 for a conveyancing matter, and $25 for a building or pest inspection that's booked through. I'll talk to the conveyancing side of the piece, and Dan will talk to the building inspection side of this as well. So this program has been in place now for a couple of months. It's only very recent with Oxbridge. We did that deliberately because of the size of the business. You guys have got quite a few agents under the Oxbridge umbrella. And we were kind of hanging back waiting for QR delivery, which I'll speak to in a minute. At the moment, we have the availability of you can email through or call through a referral, which is working and works well, but we're just trying to make that a lot easier and a lot quicker and a lot simpler for agents and brokers. So we'll be introducing the QR delivery in probably the next week to 2 weeks. Looking at the figure, $62.50 and $25. As I said, this has been up and running for a while. What we're seeing out in the marketplace is agents and brokers. We're giving them the option, again, they can spend it on what I call BMWs and bourbon. Spend it on yourself. We don't stipulate where you need to spend it or have to spend the referral or loyalty fee. What we're seeing though out in the field is the agents and the agencies are using this in a lot of cases and forwarding to like a sponsorship group, a sporting club, a community group, the local soccer team, the local netball club. Some of them are forwarding the fee on to charities, so Cancer Council, Guide Dogs Australia, whoever you choose, it's up to you. So as I said, we don't dictate where you spend the money. Totally up to you. We've even had an instance where one of the officers is accumulating their fees and putting it towards their Christmas party, which isn't too far down the track. So yeah, it makes sense. And rather than getting nothing for your efforts, as I said, we reward that loyalty to us and thank very much for any business you do send our way. That to me, and I shouldn't be downplaying this, but from my point of view as being an agent and sitting in the same space as you, that to me was secondary kind of incentive, if you like. Anyone that I ever dealt with in business and particularly in real estate, when I was in real estate, that came to me with this kind of arrangement, what I really focused on was speed of delivery and more importantly to me personally, if I'm recommending someone, I want to make sure that my customer's being looked after. So with us, as I said, we're right around Australia, so it doesn't matter where you're sitting from a conveyancing point of view, we can look after you. We don't look after Tasmania or Northern Territory, but other than that, pretty much got Australia covered. And this is the new system that we're about to roll out, which has got everyone excited, which is a QR delivery. You'll see on the screen here a QR. Oxbridge will be given their own unique QR. which will tie every single lead that comes through to our operators to the group. And then, as I said, we'll report back to Oxbridge once a month and make sure that all the referral fees or reward fees are sent back through to Oxbridge, and then they'll administer that down through to the individual officers or agents within the group. That dedicated code, sorry, tongue-tied there, dedicated code will be delivered in 3 formats. One is just the plain QR code, which I'm kind of scrolling the mouse around here, which is just the QR code without a frame. Reason we do that is we want to leave that kind of creative license open to the agents and the brokers, and many of them are kind of quasi-marketeers or marketers themselves. So some of them come up with some absolutely fantastic ideas. We've had agents and brokers put these on their business cards, all kinds of stuff. So the plain QR. The second one you'll get is the square version, which you see here, which has got a frame around it, which basically explains what the QR is all about. So you'll see the 3 key hook points down the bottom, which is typically what the customers are after. So fast, this customer scans this QR code. It takes them to what we call a rack or a form fill. And our form fill is purposely very, very simple. I've seen quite a few of them. We're all familiar with QR codes since COVID hit. It's just taken off phenomenally. And I've used QR codes myself and kind of get frustrated when I'm taken to a form fill or a request for quote that's a foot long and asks for all kinds of details, and you get halfway through it and give up. Ours is very simple. It asks for the customer's details, so their name, their email address, and their mobile number, and which services they want. So there's basically only a couple of things they need to fill in. And as soon as we get that information, we've got a sales team or a customer care service team sitting in the Philippines. English speaking, actually sound American. A lot of them, they're on the phone within minutes. So from scanning the QR code to filling in that quick bit of information to actually talking to a human that's there to help them through the journey and give them the quote is very, very fast, which is critical to us, and I know critical to the agents and the brokers that we've been dealing with at the moment. So once that happens, you'll see the third part of down the bottom, the fast free, and the third one is very important to the customers, that our quotes are written in stone. There's no extra or hidden costs with the conveyances. What you tend to find a lot of the time, if a matter does get sticky or bumpy, or there's an issue in the actual settlement process, a lot of the time the matter needs to be escalated to a solicitor. And a lot of firms out there will actually charge for that, what they call that escalation on top of the fee that's been quoted. With conveyancing.com, once we give the quote, if it does get bumpy and it has to be pushed through to the top, we don't charge any extra for that. So the fee that you've given is the fee that you pay at the end of the day. So that's fairly important to a lot of our customers, and they appreciate that. You also will get, the customer gets obviously point of contact, and so too does the referrer. So again, sitting in a real estate agent's chair, I understand, and I spent many, many hours sitting on the phone on hold, waiting for conveyancers and solicitors, waiting for lenders and brokers, to try and find out where the deal was at and if the deal had progressed through the basic milestones. So again, once we exchange a contract and hand over as agents, we're sitting there sweating on our commission check, and there's a couple of main kind of milestones, if you like, that we're waiting on. One is it's all around the due diligence of the customer. So the customer obviously wants to make sure that the property isn't a bunch of termites holding hands. It's not falling down. There's nothing major, or there's nothing that unexpected that's popped up there. So no extra costs in maintenance and repairs, which is where Dan and his team come in, and also finance approval. So yeah, spent many hours sitting there waiting. With conveyancing.com, very, very digital, very high tech. We understand that, yes, we do have a customer, which is the end customer, but we also understand very clearly we have a customer in the referrer, which is you guys. So we keep you posted of those milestones, what's happening, finance approved, unconditional, unconditional sale, settlement dates, the main stuff there, and normally via SMS. Again, being an agent, I know that you guys and girls don't sit there kind of glued to a laptop all day. You're out on the go. So we found the delivery of these bits of information are kind of received a lot quicker through SMS. So that's something we pride ourselves on there. So speed of delivery, service, and the third thing is price. And I'll probably get in trouble. I hope Dan doesn't mind, but and doesn't kind of report me back to head office. But I kind of explain conveyancing.com as a bit like the McDonald's of conveyancing. And when I say that, again, the convenience, the speed, it's not expensive. We're not, we can cater for the top end, but typically where our customer base is a customer that understands that conveyancing is a process, and they're not necessarily excited about paying extra to get someone in a suit and tie. They just want the job done. They want to be kept informed, and they want to get on with their life, and they don't want to be left out in the open. So, consistency of process, speed of delivery, and then, as I said, making sure that what you ordered is what you got. That's what we focus on there. So it's not just about a referral fee. It's about having the confidence that you've handed them across to a business, or in this case, businesses that have got the customer covered and are going to do the right thing and make sure that the job's done correctly. As I said, quite a big group, a lot of people. As I said, the ability to be able to pick up those inquiries quickly is important, particularly to customers who, when we look at due diligence, most of the time that's tied to a time frame. So you've got an anxious customer that really appreciates, the speed of, asking for assistance and actually getting someone on the phone to start talking them through the process. In a lot of cases, we've had instances where we've had people call us and tell us, that Dan will tell you, we had a couple last week where the agents rung us and said, we need a building inspection like tomorrow. Can you help us out? And we've come to the party. So that's important. That, as I said, that speed of delivery is really, really critical, and particularly in this day and age. As I said, quite a big crew behind it all. I won't bore you with the details of this slide, and as I said, we'll share the slide with the group or with Oxbridge, and they'll hand it down or filter it down to you guys and girls so you can go into a little bit more detail. Most of that I've spoken to. We've also added in the conveyancing price guide. So these, when you click on these, they're dynamic lists. They're pulled from our website. So as you know, from time to time, prices change. They go up or down. If you click on any of these lists here, you'll be able to get an understanding of what the costs are right now, right here and now. And go from there. So as I said, if there's any changes, they're reflected and changed and edited in our website. So dynamic lists, you can look at this 2 years down the track and have the up-to-date pricing. That's me in a nutshell. I might stop sharing and take a breath. I talk like an auctioneer sometimes, and see if there's any questions, and then hand over to Dan. I don't think there'll be any questions at this point, so it's all yours, Dan.
Yeah, massive crew here, so you'll be fielding questions for ages. Given the size of the crew we're chatting to today, I'll probably skip over a few things, particularly the bad jokes I had prepared, but we'll skip over those, and we'll get into it quite quickly. Like Martin said, my name's Daniel Watts. I founded RBI, or co-founded RBI with the CEO of DBC about just over 5 years ago, May 2017, and since then we've grown quite rapidly to the point we're doing about 15,000 inspections last year, and on track to hopefully do about 20,000 this year across Australia. There's a few things that are a bit unique about our model, or about the way we do it. Is one, we don't have a contractor model where we're just a booking platform and then farm it out to contractors. About 75% of our team across Australia are all employee inspectors by RBI, and even those that aren't, those few that are contractors, they're all trained by us. And I'll get into what we do around quality and our quality checks a little bit later. But let me share my screen first, and hopefully I can manage to do that. This one. All right, can you guys see that? If I put it there, can you still see it? Perfect. All right, let me just click on the slideshow. Stuff's going everywhere.
Hang on, I've got you. There you go. You're on now.
Yep, you've got me. Perfect. So like I said, in terms of there are some other franchise businesses out there. There's some booking platforms where you can order building and pest inspections, and then they farm it out to the lowest bidder for the inspections, or have a panel of various inspectors located around Australia. But we operate as a standalone business, and we employ nearly our entire team, and we've specifically went out to or pursued this model for a couple of reasons. One of them was when I've got a long history in the building and construction industry. In the mid 90s, I started my apprenticeship. I went into the military after that, completed my apprenticeship as a carpenter joiner in the military, and served in various places in that capacity, and then left the army and started my own a variety of my own small businesses in the area, and went into the aid and development sector, and finally landed up starting Rapid. But one of the things that I've constantly encountered in the building and construction industry, and I found was a frustration, is when in general there's some very good people and very good companies in the building and construction industry, but as an industry, the biggest feedback I get from people who deal, particularly clients of the building and construction industry, is that there's a lack of care in the industry. They feel that it's a dog-eat-dog world. People don't care. They just want to get the job done as quick as they can and get their money. People don't communicate as a second point. There's a lack of communication. Tradies don't tell you when they're going to turn up, when they're not going to turn up. They don't tell you when they're likely to be finished or not likely to be finished. And as a result, there's a perception that there's a lack of professionalism across the industry. And so when we started Rapid, we started with three clear things in mind. And the first one was we wanted to care, and we wanted to care about ourselves, care about our teammates, and care about our clients. And if we care, we're going to communicate well. So we want to communicate to our teammates, we want to communicate to our clients well. And if we care and we communicate well, we're going to come across as professional. And we've built this culture in Rapid right from the start. It's all about care, communication, and professionalism. And we're really, really proud of the work that we've done in that area, and to the point where we have a number of sayings in our business, and one of them is if you're not sure whether to contact someone, then contact them. So the moment you're thinking, should I contact someone? Should I call the client? Should I call the real estate agent? Should I call the landlord? The answer is always yes. And so we feel that in this type of industry, you can never communicate too much. So we've built, that's the culture that underpins our business and what we've built. And we've done that so that we're not at the mercy of, 5 good contractors and 5 poor contractors, 5 that communicate well and 5 that don't communicate well. We've done it so that we can build a team that will communicate and will care for everyone, and we can manage that process. Now, we deliver we started just doing building and pest inspections, but we've since expanded, and we've built quite a suite of different types of inspections. We've got our pre-purchase ones. We do dilapidation surveys, stage inspections on new builds, pre-slab, frame, lock-up, handover. We actually do meth residue testing, drug testing. This is something we started doing almost 2 years ago now. We started doing meth residue testing, and we did it based on some extensive research into the effects of meth residue and on occupants of houses, and also some research into the extent of the problem. In New Zealand, it's actually compulsory whenever a house changes hands or whenever a tenant moves in or out, that they must do meth residue testing. And a number of years ago, the Australian government came out and said, we've got a bigger problem than New Zealand. And it's reiterated in our results. In fact, as a ratio, more houses that we inspect test positive to meth residue over and above the safe health guidelines than houses we find that are with termites. So we get more houses with meth residue contamination than, as a ratio, than we do houses with termites. And that's how bad the problem is. In fact, fully 16% of the houses that we test for meth residue come back as positive for over and above the safe health guidelines. And it's a major issue in Australia. To clean it up or decontaminate a house is somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 per room, upwards of $15,000 for a house, depending on the level of contamination. So it's a major problem. Most meth contamination is not as a result of a lab. In fact, about over 80% of meth residue contamination is as a result of people just smoking it. Recently, we inspected a house, and this was an older couple who had retired. Their kids had left home, and they'd lived in that house for about 30 or 40 years. They'd raised their whole family in that house, and we tested it for meth in the bathroom, and it came back as positive. And they're like, no, test it again. There's no way our house we've lived in here all our lives. Our kids have lived here. We've raised them. There's no way it's positive for meth. And there was also a manhole in the bathroom. And so we said, well, before we, waste time testing it again, let's investigate a little. And we put a ladder in there. We removed the manhole, poked our head in the roof, and sure enough, there's some meth smoking gear and all that sitting in there. And this particular family has all their kids come around on a Sunday night for dinner. It's just a tradition in that family, and they were very sheepish when they said, guess what, the discussion is going to be when our kids come around on this Sunday night. Those sneaky buggers. There's something to talk to them about who actually owns that meth gear in the roof, and the extent of that problem is significant. So we've really introduced that as a way to protect buyers and etc. 137B, or owner builder reports in Victoria, we do those. Pre-purchase structural inspections in WA. They have some quirks in their system that don't really line up with the rest of Australia. So they have a structural inspections only, and which is problematic in itself, in that it prevents potential buyers from doing full thorough due diligence on their property. It limits it to the structure only, and so you can find some water issues, for example, in a WA property. Say in a bathroom, you can find moisture issues. And, a basic bathroom reno now is about 30 grand, but you're not allowed to report on that in WA, and that person can't negotiate on it or can't work around it. That's too bad. If it's not structural, it's up to you. So we're working in WA to assist buyers to be able to do their full due diligence and create a fairer market there. And we've just introduced strata reports in New South Wales. So there are products and tax depreciation schedules. Obviously, we do anywhere between 30 and 50 tax depreciation schedules a month as well. So that's a growing product for us. And as you'll see, all of our products are what do you call it? They're all natural progressions from each other. So often we can add additional value to a client and save them time and money by doing several of these items all at the one time. Any questions so far? I know there's only a couple of us, but nope. All right. One of the biggest challenges we have in our industry. Oh, yep. Oh, William, did you have something? Cool. All right. One of the biggest challenges in our industry, obviously, is managing the expectations. And I like to say our industry is like the Wild West. There's very little to no regulation in the pre-purchase building and pest inspection industry in Australia. Queensland is the only state that regulates it to some degree, and even then it's a cursory regulation, and the regulator doesn't really know what to do in this space. And when I say it's the Wild West, I know there's only a couple of people on this call, but if there was a lot more people and a lot more real estate agents on this call, you'd understand what I say when you're probably sick and tired of getting reports on the same property that all say different things. And this is the problem with no regulation. You'll have someone who'll report on in a manner that's a traffic light system, red and green and amber and this type of stuff. You'll have someone else that'll have a sliding scale for how they're ranking their defects, and you'll have someone else who will prepare reports and they believe less photos and less comments is better, and you'll have others who think more comments and more photos is better for various reasons. And so there's a lot of challenges for conveyancers and real estate agents when they get these reports is interpreting what do they actually mean. And so part of what we've done is we've set out to actually bring consistency and a consistent and calibrated standard to our industry. And so all of our inspectors are trained to inspect. They're not just a licensed builder or a tradesman whose joints have got a bit creaky and they can't stay on the tools anymore. They are trained and qualified inspectors, and I'll explain a bit more how we train and qualify them to give you some clarity on how we're going about that and how we're bringing consistency to the industry. But quite simply, the general public out there has no idea what are the requirements for an inspector across Australia. Queensland, which you can see there, has the strictest requirements for inspectors. They require all inspectors to hold a builder's license and a full pest technician's license with the QBCC. And then they have to have completed what's called the completed residential building inspector course. Quite frankly, that course is the biggest waste of time you'll ever go to, but it's a requirement, and all that course does is basically introduce you to a document called the Australian Standards AS 4349.1-2007. It does not help you interpret it. It does not help you work out how to report against it or anything like that. It basically just says, hey, here's the standard and this is what it says. So that's about all that's required to be an inspector. You don't have to have any inspection training. You don't have to have a set routine for completing an inspection. You don't have to prove that you can determine what is a major or minor defect according to the standards. There's nothing around this. So that's why it's the Wild West. And but in Queensland, all of our inspectors meet these minimum standards plus our own strict standards. Around the rest of Australia, pretty much all of the rest of Australia, with some minor things, inspectors are required to have a trade and or equivalent experience or qualification in the building and construction industry, and units 8 and 10 for inspecting and reporting on timber pests. That's about half of a pest technician's license, roughly, the units 8 and 10. And for the work we do, it's probably sufficient. The trade and equivalent experience is probably sufficient too for most people. It matters not. In fact, it's, in our experience, it's not necessarily builders who make the best inspectors. Someone with a builder's license, often these guys have completed it through university, or they don't hold a trade or anything like that, so they don't actually have the experience required in the industry to do an inspection, but they're able to do it. So in our experience, the best inspectors are those with the experience in the industry. They've done lots of construction, lots of renovations, alterations, additions. They've seen everything, and then they're teachable in terms of how to conduct an inspection. So so when you're looking for an inspector, you want an inspector with the experience, not necessarily the builder's license, though a builder's license is nice to have, but it's not the be and all and end all when it comes to inspections. But all of RBI's inspectors in all other states meet the minimum requirements of the Australian standards. So all of Rapid's inspectors meet the minimum requirements. They have to meet them in order for us to be insured, and we're fully insured up to, I think, about $10 million in PI and 20 million in PL. So the pre-purchase inspections, they're done to Australian standards or annexes of the standard. The first one is AS 4349.1-2007. That's the inspection of buildings. That's the building part. The other one is AS 4349.3-2007. That's the pest part. They're the standards we must operate on. When you receive reports or you see reports as a real estate agent or potentially a broker or a conveyancer, they're the standards that must report to, and they can be a bit grey sometimes, to be perfectly frank. But what does RBI do about this to take the greyness out? Well, all of our inspectors undergo additional in-house training. In fact, every RBI inspector undergoes fortnightly training modules. They undergo a 6 to 8 week training program when they first start with us, and then they undergo fortnightly modules throughout the year, and these are constantly refreshed and updated and rolled out all the time. And one of the things we've done, I've talked about the inconsistency in the industry. We've developed what we believe to be Australia's first national inspector framework. In fact, it is. It's Australia's first national inspector framework. This framework is a method of conducting an inspection. So it's a way to go around everything from how long we run the taps for, to the direction that we move in when we inspect a house, to where we go first and where we don't. All of these things, what areas we always test for moisture and what areas we only test if there's conducive conditions. All of these things are done to create a consistent inspection experience right across Australia. It doesn't matter whether you're in Perth or you're in Adelaide or you're in Melbourne, your inspector is going to inspect the property using exactly the same method to minimise any likelihood of them missing something. Then it's not just a method of inspecting, it's a method of reporting and how to report. So it's calibrated against the definitions in the Australian standard, where it doesn't matter if it's Joe in Western Australia or it's Paul in Queensland. If they see the same type of defect on the different sides of Australia, they will report on it in the same way, because they've been trained to calibrate the way they report. So when a real estate agent in New South Wales or a real estate agent in Victoria picks up a report, the defect means exactly the same thing, and it's being calibrated exactly the same way. So we're bringing consistency to the industry. And then every single Rapid inspector is quality assessed, QA'd on site every single month. We use the results of that QA to provide ongoing and continued training to our team, as well as to inform our future training modules that we release each fortnight for the team to do. And every inspector must complete those modules, whether they're a contractor or an employee, it matters not. And then as a further quality check, every single report that is completed, we have a customer support team that are all trained to review reports and the comments in reports, and they review every single report independently of the inspector before it is sent out to the client. Now, the reason we do this is our inspectors are very good, but we talk about big fat builders' fingers that have been smashed by hammers for the last 30 years, and it's easy for them to accidentally, or it's possible for them to tick the wrong box or slide to the wrong section at times in their reporting system. So we triple check things. There's not usually much they need to do, but if they need to fix something, they can call the inspector and say, hey, did you really mean this when you said that? Or did you really mean to tick this box? So we've developed a system and a quality assurance system where clients, real estate agents, conveyancers can be confident that they're getting the best possible report, and there's no one else in the industry that applies these types of quality checks. In fact, most of them rely on an inspector to use his knowledge that he's developed in years in the building industry to write a report and hit submit and send it to the client. There's no checks, there's no balances, there's no calibration, there's no quality assessment. I'm going to just play a little video quickly. I'll only take a couple more minutes of your time, but I just want to play this. So, like I said, one of our challenges is managing expectations. The standards dictate what we can and can't report on, where we can and can't go in a property, what we can and can't move. And as one of the initiatives we've done is we built a little infographic that goes out with every single engagement agreement with all our clients, so they can watch it and basically they can be fully aware of what to expect and what not to expect in their report. Let me see if I can click play. Can you guys hear this?
Rapid building inspection. My name's Heidi and I'm here to help. If you're wondering what's included in a building inspection report, you've come to the right place. Firstly, a building and pest inspection is a visual assessment of a property. We check for visible defects and visible signs of pests. Your building report will outline invisible minor defects and invisible major defects. Minor defects are things like chipping, cracking, paint blemishes, and sticky doors. While major defects are things we recommend be repaired to avoid loss of utility, additional damages, or unsafe conditions. Major defects may include things like wood rot, cracked ceilings or walls, excessive moisture, or faulty sealants. In order to carry out your inspection, we need to be able to access certain parts of the property. We can inspect your subfloor if access is more than 40 centimetres high and 60 centimetres wide. Inspecting the roof is possible in dry weather if it can be securely accessed by a 3.6 metre ladder placed safely on the ground. For roof space inspections, the access hole must be a minimum of 40 centimetres by 50 centimetres, with a crawl space of at least 60 centimetres by 60 centimetres inside. And of course, we can't inspect any part of the property that's locked or obstructed, for example, behind pictures, white goods, cupboards, and other furniture. We deliver high-quality, thorough, and detailed reports in accordance with the Australian standards AS 4349.1 2007 and AS 4349.3 2010. All of our inspectors carry the latest inspection industry technology to perform a non-invasive report to look for moisture and pests with the use of thermal sensors. It's also been aware of what isn't included in your building inspection report. The Australian standards limit what we can and can't report on during your inspection. We can't include information on issues that can't be seen or estimate how much repairs will cost. We can't report on lighting efficiency, the functionality of fire and smoke detectors and appliances including dishwashers, ovens, stoves, ducted vacuum systems, or any electrical issues. We also can't assess whether the building complies with any building act, code, regulations, or laws. We also can't report on the type of ground that the property sits on. This includes whether it's likely to swell, shrink, flood, or slide. Lastly, it's worth covering some key terms and what they mean. Visual. Building and pest inspection reports are a visual assessment. If something isn't visible, it's unlikely that we'll be able to report on it. Non-invasive. In the process of our inspection, we aren't permitted to move other people's goods and furniture, drill holes, or affect the property we're inspecting. Recommendations. Our inspectors will include their recommendations in the report to help you make an informed decision and take action. For your own protection, any recommendation should be taken seriously and carefully considered prior to entering into a binding contract. At Rapid, we help thousands of people across Australia with our thorough, reliable, compliant, and impartial building and pest inspection reports. If you have any other questions, feel free to just head to rapidbuildinginspection.com.au.
So this is one of the ways that when we prepare make a booking, we're helping clients to manage clients' expectations of what can and can't be included in a building and pest inspection report, and it's often the biggest area of friction in our industry. And again, because there's no regulation, real estate agents, conveyancers, they get one report and it's got certain stuff in, they get another report and it doesn't have it in, and they say, well, I got this report and it should have had it in. Essentially what we're doing is we've calibrated what should and shouldn't be included in a report to the Australian standards. We're 50,000 inspections in, and we've taken all of that knowledge and calibrated to the standards. William, question?
Yes, I do. I do have a question. Something that I have noticed lately, a lot of people are starting to use drones to do the roof inspection. Is that something that you guys have? Because as you can see, I mean, a lot of houses now are 2-story houses, and yeah, with the standard condition, that standard letter 3 meters is not going to reach a 2-story house. So it's something that I have seen that is been getting really popular right now. They do the roof inspection with drones with that really high quality pictures and probably more detail, that they can detect cracks or things like that in the tiles or things like that. Is that something that you guys have?
So it's a good question, and I've probably got it's a combination of answers to that question. Firstly, yeah, you're right. 2-story houses, the top level is often difficult to inspect the roof, the external roof on. Sometimes you can climb up onto the first level roof and view the second level roof from the first level roof. So if that's possible, that'll be done. Where it's not possible, the roof will only be viewed from the ground unless there's a drone. We have a couple of our inspectors that do use drones, and we tend to assign them to those double-story houses. However, we've as early as or as recently as this week, have engaged and agreed on a partnership with probably Australia's largest drone operator, providers of drone operators. We have an agreement in them. Well, it's in place now, and we'll kick off next month where there's where it's required, we'll be able to access their drone technology and insert it into our reports. Now, one of the reasons why, as a business, we haven't done it is that there's been very little work or regulation done with this in terms of the Australian standards and pre-purchase inspection industry in terms of the quality and what the type of quality of drones that may or may not be required, what you can and can't report on with a drone, what is reasonable to not show with a drone, and these sorts of things. So there's no set standards around that. So you have to be very careful on what we do and don't report on using drone technology, unless it's the highest quality and highest resolution stuff you can get. It's a little bit similar, like people will sometimes say, can you scan my house with your thermal imaging camera, and check there's nothing in the walls? Well, again, what the industry doesn't what many clients of the industry don't understand is, yeah, we can bring in the thermal imaging cameras and we can scan some walls. You can't scan whole walls, but you can scan parts of walls. But there's a couple of challenges. One is, if you're not a licensed thermographer and that lands in court, you're not licensed to interpret that drawing. So you probably shouldn't be including something on your report that you're not licensed to interpret. Now, I only know of one licensed thermographer in the Australian building and pest industry, and he's located in Adelaide. I don't know of any others, and I know hundreds of inspectors in this industry. So yes, they can be helpful. They can also be troublesome for both clients, real estate agents, conveyancers, and inspectors themselves, as an example. And so drones are a little bit in that category as well. Is that there's no regulation yet around what's available or not. And so there's the potential there to turn up, well, do you have a drone pilot's license? Well, are you licensed then to be taking those photos? And it's a very, it's one of the most litigious industries in Australia, the building and pest inspection industry. Now, we're 50,000 inspections in. We've been sued once and we won that case. Hands down, simply based around our quality controls. So it was no problems, but that's very, very unusual to be after 50,000 inspections to have only had one person sue us in that time in our industry. The rates are much, much higher than that in general, because it's such a litigious industry. So does that answer your question, William?
Yeah,
So-
well, good. Yeah, no, just but because that's something that I noticed that I mean, it makes a big difference, because
It does, and that's why we're moving that way.
There are a lot of new buildings, 2-story houses, and this standard 3 meters is not going to apply,
That's right.
And same thing as you say with the thermal sensor. Yeah, a lot of people, they say they have it and they don't use it, and then the customer get frustrated because they don't get what they expect.
Yeah, exactly right. And so we understand those things, and that's why we try and manage expectations. And there's got to be a set standard, and the standard of the Australian standards, and we've got the experience of 50,000 inspections to calibrate that against. So yeah, we're moving in that direction, but making sure that when we offer that as a general part of our service, it's the highest quality and complying product that we can produce. We've never launched something or initiative or a piece of technology that was good enough. It had to be better than good enough, because we understand the nature of our industry, and same with drone technology, and that's why we're only moving into that now. Excellent. And finally, before we get on, the big question is, how do sellers and agents benefit from pre-purchase reports? Don't reports make it more difficult to sell a property? When the client obviously doesn't have the experience in the building and construction industry, they don't have the technology to check for moisture behind walls, or the knowledge to look for termites, these types of things. So if they find out this, doesn't it make it more difficult to sell a property? There's two ways to look at this, and we've had some unique experience in this part of this area of the industry. So yes, it can lead a client to want to renegotiate on the property. But one of the things we've started doing is seller pre-purchase inspections quite regularly, and seller inspections quite regularly, and the advantage of seller inspections is twofold. One, the person the seller who gets the report, they can choose to.
Dan, you're sharing your chat screen. Sorry.
How's that?
That's better.
Yep. One, they can get they know what's likely to be picked up on the property in a building and pest report, so they can choose to either get their property sale ready, so potentially saving them tens of thousands of dollars or a significant amount of time in negotiations, so they can get their property sale ready. Now they're pre-prepared. In the army, we used to have the 7 Ps: prior preparation and planning prevents piss poor performance. And so, and the same goes for if you're doing anything in life, but such as selling a house. Prior preparation prepares you to perform at the highest level possible. So a report before you sell the property will help you get it ready. Or if you don't if a seller chooses not to get the property ready for sale, instead they can choose to they can be pre-prepared for negotiations. As recently as a month or so ago, we did a seller report, and we reported on some rot to the bottom of one of their pergola posts. The buyer came back and said, "Oh, the rear pergola is falling down. We're going to have to remove the whole. We're going to have to replace the whole pergola. We want $20,000 off the price of this property." And the seller was able to simply to come back and say, well, actually, no, that's one post and it's a $500 repair. We've already looked into it and got it quoted. We'll get it repaired for you. We'll give you $500 off. And the buyer had no comeback for that, because the seller, they chose not to repair it. And when they were challenged on it, they were able to be pre-prepared for that negotiation. The other benefit of having a seller's as a seller doing a report is often you have a 7 to 14 day clause for building and pests in your contract. If the buyer chooses to purchase that report that you've had as a seller, they can satisfy that clause on day one. You can provide that report. Reports must be independent and unbiased. So you can provide that report, and if they choose to accept that report, you can satisfy that clause on day one. So a strategy such as this seller's reports, it can actually help sell a property. It's a win-win for the agent, the seller, the client, and RBI. Everyone gets a win from it. So simply, I don't want to take any more of your time. We're already 2 minutes over, but any last questions before we shoot on about building and pest inspections? Martin's already talked about our referral program. We have a whole team sitting there to look after you. But any questions?
No, from my side.
No bids. Okay.
Yep. Feel free to reach out to me personally or a member of my team at any time. We'll get these packs to you, but I'll make sure my email's there as well.
Thanks, Dan. Just to wrap up, guys, we've gone slightly over, but pretty good timing. Keeping it really simple, just remember us, conveyancing.com for conveyancing matters, and Rapid Building for your building and pest inspections. A couple of different methods of getting hold of us. First one is you'll be provided with referrals at Rapid buildinginspections.com.au and also referrals at conveyancing.com.au. Also 2 dedicated phone lines, 1 for each. And then, as I said, really excitingly, a QR code, which will take them through to phone operators, and your customers will be looked after really, really quickly, picked up on, given quotes, as I said, written in stone in a matter of minutes. So all that will be sent to you. As I know, there's hundreds of agents under the Oxbridge banner. Only a couple of us online today, but this is being recorded and shared. And obviously we'll get some information through to Dr. Paul, and that'll filter through the group. And we look forward to receiving some leads and referrals. And as I said, reward you with our direct referral program, just to say thank you on top of all the good service that we'll provide your customers. Dan touched on it quickly with purchase inspections, or your vendors typically looking for conveyances, or looking more so for Dan's crew and the building inspections. We find most of the time they're sent through to us via the referrals inbox. So again, all that information will shoot through to you, and really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and happy selling over the weekend.
Yep. Good luck, guys. And like I said, don't be scared to drop an email if you've got any questions, queries, or need clarification or anything.
Adios.
Cheers. Have a brilliant weekend. See ya.
See you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.